Hello, everyone. Good evening to all of you. Thank you for spending your Thursday evening with us. So please let me know if clear po ba yung audio ko. Kindly type C if it's clear and kindly type N if it is unclear. I'll check the chat box for your feedback before I proceed. Type C if my audio is clear or type N if it is not clear. Okay, thank you so much. I have already seen some feedback in the chat box. Yes. So for tonight, our webinar is timely kasi March is a fire prevention month. And of course, aside sa properties, ayaw din nating masunog yung perang pinaghirapan natin. Kaya we have this webinar entitled Fund Smart Learning Series, Fireproofing Your Finances, a guide to preventing investment mishaps. By the way, I am Monneth Pangatungan, Visayas Business Development and Market Education Officer of FirstMetroSec Securities. It is the stock brokerage arm of Metro Bank. And our company is dedicated to promote financial literacy and create awareness on investment opportunities to empower individuals like you and even me and institutions attain their financial goals. And we envision to be the largest and most trusted Philippine investment solutions partner. It is my honor and pleasure to serve as your host this evening. So just like this event, we used to conduct our sessions on-site and face-to-face. However, due to pandemic, we shifted to a webinar format. And we are grateful that we had this continuous collaboration with public institutions like Bureau of the Treasury and Pag-ibig, even academic institutions and private institutions. So we are very grateful that despite those webinar sessions, we are able to add value wherever you are located. So now we're back on on-site sessions, even conducted market outlook for the real estate brokers and their clients as well. And we have conducted financial and investment literacy programs for UC Maine students and University of the Philippines Cebu, and even Central and Eastern Visayas ENT doctors. And currently, we also experience hybrid session with the Department of Finance and Department of Foreign Affairs. So over hundreds of speaking engagements done by FirstMetroSec. And you would consider or you would wonder why we do what we do here in FirstMetroSec. So bakit namin ginagawa ito? So we actually acknowledge this, that the demographics here in the Philippines in terms of stock market investors as of 2022, so for over 100 million in population, 1.71 million stock market accounts lang. So most of them at 1.2 have online accounts. Around 75% are actually locally employed. And we are now currently gaining traction from OFWs and even students. And here in Cebu, we are only representing around 3.7%. So currently, I am in Visayas. So how about the audience? Where are you currently tuning from? Are you in Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, or overseas? Now, let me just check the chat box for your feedback. So anyone from Luzon, Visayas, or Mindanao? So there we have one from Luzon. How about overseas, Visayas there, or Mindanao? Thank you so much for your feedback. So actually, the very reason why FirstMetroSec and even the funds partner do what we do, because there is a very big gap in terms of the number of investors, not only on the stock market investors, but even in the overall investors here in the Philippines. According to the BSP Financial Inclusion Survey, 64% of the Filipinos do not invest. So majority of the Filipinos are not investing whether pooled funds, stocks, or bonds. And dahil dito, they are not able to take advantage of their money works for them. So this is the very reason why market education of FirstMetroSec, together with our fund partner BPI Wealth, do what we do, educating more Filipinos to maximize their opportunity in investing. And for this evening sessions, we figure that it would be best to tag experts along. And we are very grateful that for tonight, we have Kimm Arellano, He is a portfolio relationship manager handling primarily the digital partners of BPI Wealth. So prior to this, he joined BPI in 2014 as an investment advisor. Kimm is a certified investment solicitor by the Securities and Exchange Commission and a certified money market and foreign exchange dealer by the Ateneo de Manila University Graduate School of Business and Bankers Association of the Philippines. So let's all welcome in the virtual stage, Kimm Arellano. Hi, Kimm.
Hello, good evening, Monneth, and good
Good
evening to
evening.
everyone attending our session for this evening. Okay, so I guess can I start now, Monneth, or are we waiting for
Sure, you may start now, Kimm.
Okay, sige. As you mentioned, this is this month we are doing this session in timely since this is the fire prevention month. So we are preventing any mishaps for your investments or potential investments for the future. Okay, so for this session, I guess it's timely that we tackle not only yung gaining the knowledge about investing, but changing yung basic mindsets when it comes to your finances. So it's one thing to understand investments, but it's another to actually comprehend what you are doing in the financial landscape. Okay, so let me share my presentation and then we can start now. Okay, so I trust you can see my screen. Let me know if you're not seeing it. Okay.
Yeah, all good.
All right, all good. Okay, so let's start with the presentation for this evening. So, fireproofing your finances, a guide to preventing investment mishaps. Okay, so before we start, just some disclaimers from BPI Wealth. Okay, so ultimately, what we want to have at the end of the day is to have a comfortable life. Of course, we want to have a lavish life. We have to and want to enjoy an extravagant life. But at the bare minimum, we want to enjoy life comfortably. Okay? Wala naman siguro na naghahangad na in the future gusto kong mamuhay ng mahirap or gusto kong mamuhay na yung day-to-day lang yung iniisip ko. So, at the end of the day, gusto mo comfortable yung life mo. Now, what it means to have a comfortable life, it's up to you. If bare minimum lang yung important sa'yo and that makes you comfortable, then you do you. If you want to have excess money to do your travels, to do your privileges, then that's also up to you. So yung part na yon of the conversation, it's for you to do a soliloquy or an intrapersonal conversation with para ma-identify mo what your needs and wants are. Okay? So before we go into investment, let's go first dun sa basics as I mentioned earlier. So first is we have to understand savings. Okay? So what happens usually especially sa Philippines? When we talk about savings, usually kapag pinag-usapan natin to, ang pumapasok sa isip natin is yung income that we receive on a regular basis or irregular depending on what your source of income is. Sorry. And then you take out your expenses. Okay, so these are your utilities, your groceries, and all your regular expenses. And then whatever's left would be your savings. Now, the problem here is I've talked to a lot of people, especially yung mga nag-start pa lang to earn money or yung mga starting to have their own families. And what usually happens is mas malaki yung expenses than their income. So yung savings, okay sana kung meron, pero most of the time, wala or worst case scenario, utang pa yung nagkakaroon tayo. Okay, so we have to change our mindset para we can put savings first in this equation. But let's look at some example. No? So for example, your salary is starting 20K, okay? And then you list down all your expenses, food, utilities, transport, and so on and so forth. If your total expenses amounts to 20,000 pesos, then your salary, your income minus your expenses would give you a net of 0. So wala kang naipon for this particular balance sheet. Okay? So the alternative that we are proposing is instead of taking out your expenses from your income first, this time, when you get your income, unahin nating mag-set aside ng a bit for your savings. Okay? And then whatever is left ay yung iba-budget natin for your expenses. In this case, hindi na variable si savings. Okay? Kasi you're paying yourself forward na you're setting it aside, ensuring that you will always have something to be added to your ipon. Okay? So let's look at an example. So for example, 20,000 pesos again yung salary natin. And then nag-decide ka, okay, I'll set aside 10%. Okay, so 2,000 of my salary, I'll set that aside. I'll put that to my savings account. So you have 18,000 pesos that you are now left to budget dun sa mga pinagkakagastusan natin. Okay, so it's up to you kung saan mo ito-take out yung or saan mo ba ibabawas yung 2,000 na sinet aside mo for savings. In this case, for example, since hindi naman masyado priority yung shopping and eating out, then perhaps you can lessen your expenses from that or from those. Okay? So again, just an example. But at least in this case, you are assured that you were able to save 2,000 pesos. Okay, next step is, so you know how to save na. Next is, you have to determine your revenue streams. Some of us, hindi lang naman sweldo yung pinagkukuhanan ng pera, or some of us merong multiple sources of income. Next is revisit and review your expenses. And third is identify trends and habits. Okay, so let's go to the revenue stream. So as I mentioned, well, for most of us, probably, salary talaga yung pinaka-main source of income natin. But for others na hindi employed, they have their businesses. And for those na retired na, they have their pension or their retirement pay. Now, if let's say, for example, you have your job, okay, employed ka full-time, but you're doing something else on the side or meron kang side hustle, okay, then you determine lahat ng sources of income mo. If nagpaparent ka, for example, ng apartments or meron kang online business, so you determine everything that gives you money, either regularly or irregularly. Okay, just to give you an idea kung how much really you earn on a given period. Okay, and that would be your revenue streams. Next is revisit and review your expenses. So ano yung regularly occurring na expenses natin? Of course, you have there your monthly utility and grocery bills. So hindi naman siya negotiable. You always have to pay for those and buy for your grocery. But you would also need to consider ano yung mga subscriptions natin. For example, especially now, we're in an era na puro subscription na tayo, Netflix, Food Panda, di ba? Grab, sa Grab, meron ding Grab Unlimited, and then you have all your streaming sites and all the other subscriptions, you have to consider that. And then your credit card statements, okay? So for credit cards, you always have to fully pay if you don't want to pay additional interest fees. Okay. And then for online shopping, you have to also determine how much you usually spend on any particular period. Okay. And then those would be your expenses. And that will also give you an idea how much you spend on a regular period. Okay. And ano yung mga negotiable na pwedeng nating bawasan or pwedeng totally i-eliminate. Okay. Next is identifying trends and habits. Okay, so this would be your recurring charges that you might not be using anymore. Okay, so for example, even yung mga subscription natin kanina, maybe a year ago, nag-subscribe ka to a particular subscription because you really needed that service, pero hindi mo napansin, let's say for example, Spotify, hindi mo na pala siya nagagamit over the last few months, and maybe you can already consider cutting it out of your expenses. Consider also your wants versus needs. Ano yung mga hindi naman talaga required for you to enjoy life or to have in your daily expenses, and then set realistic spending goals per expense type. Okay? So if you're traveling, for example, okay, hindi ka papasok into a travel or into a destination without taking into account first magkano yung plano mo na gastusin for that specific travel. Okay? If you're going to upgrade, for example, to a new phone, to a new laptop, set a goal or a limit to how much you would be willing to spend on that. If manlilibre ka sa office, for example, or sa family mo, then you also have to consider or set a budget for your expenses. Okay? Next is, here is an example of, sorry, this is an example of your savings. So kanina, I showed you an example of income minus expenses going into savings, and then income minus savings going into expenses. So in this case, so 20,000 again yung salary, your expense is 18,000. So we already set aside 2,000 initially for your savings. If you do this on a regular basis, if you make it into an habit, if you're going to look at the right chart, so it adds up. Okay, so even if relatively maliit yung 2,000 pesos, but if you do it consistently, okay, diligently over a certain period, so in this case, a year, it really adds up. So 24,000, that's not bad for a 2,000 peso na monthly savings. Okay? Of course, if you can set it higher, if mas malaki, for example, yung revenue natin, yung salary natin, or yung income natin from our business, and maliit lang yung expenses natin, then this can have significant changes. Okay? So again, income minus savings is your expenses now. So hopefully everyone can change their mindset moving forward. So to put more priority into your savings. But of course, this evening, hindi lang savings yung pinag-uusapan natin. We're also going to talk about investments. So this is one level higher versus the previous example. So when you get your income, set aside something for your savings, and then also set aside a portion for your investments. Okay, and then whatever's left, that's what you budget for your expenses. Okay, so why do we invest? Well, the bare minimum reason why people should consider investing is inflation. Now, inflation, this is the natural increase in the prices of goods and commodities. So we don't have, we as individuals don't have any control on inflation. Okay? But unfortunately, this would have control over our spending power. So yung nabibili ng money natin over time decreases because of inflation. Kung controlled or static yung number or yung amount of money that we get to spend on a regular basis, if the cost of goods and services increase, that would mean paunti ng paunti yung kaya nating bilhin with our money. And as of March 2023, as of this figure, the inflation was at 7.6%. So the prices of goods and commodities increased by 7.6%. Now, if you're just going to put all your money into savings, okay, it's good right now over the pandemic, tumaas yung interest rates, but it's still not 7.6%. Let's say on average, the interest rate is 2%. That's still a lot lower than 7.6%. So to beat inflation, you have to consider investing. So here's a basic example on how inflation works. So for example, you have 500 pesos in 2000 that could have bought you a basket full of goods. In 2020, much less. And then in 2040, probably hindi na nga basket, dapat yung nasa illustration. Maybe just one or two items from the grocery would be able to be bought by your 500 pesos. Okay, so again, your money stays the same, but its purchasing power decreases because of inflation. Okay, so how do you protect your money? You should be one step ahead of inflation by investing. Okay, so later si Monneth would be showing you more options on where to invest, particularly in our BPI Wealth funds. Okay, so let's compare first, differentiate savings versus investing. When you save, you get a fixed interest rate. Okay, on the onset, kapag naglagay ka ng pera sa bangko, whether sa savings account or into a time deposit, you know how much you would be earning, let's say, per month or per annum. Okay? Saving is basically accumulating your money. You add to your savings account whenever you can add to your account. Okay? And then it is PDIC insured because PDIC covers all deposit accounts. Okay? Whereas investing, wala siyang, well, not all, pero most of them do not have fixed interest rates. But they do offer higher income potential. Okay, later we'll be discussing kung ano yung mga types of investments or asset classes available in the market. But generally, most of them offer higher income potential than your regular savings account. Okay? Investing is making your money work hard for you. So hindi mo lang iniipon yung pera. The money that you put into an investment is earning as well for you. Okay? So hindi lang siya natulog doon. Okay? So if you're, well, later we'll be discussing, but if it's in a bond fund or in a bond investment or in an equity investment, then your money is actually propelling the issuer of that security to grow its value, and equally you will be reaping the benefits of that investment as well. However, ito lang, wala siyang PDIC insurance ang investment because an investment is not a savings account. So wala kang makikitang any investment in the market right now, regardless kung anong bank siya, kung anong financial institution, that would say that this particular investment is covered by PDIC insurance. Okay? However, even if wala siyang PDIC insurance, you just have to do your own research. Sino ba yung nag-offer ng investment? Sino ba yung backers ng investment natin? Okay? To give you an idea on how sound the investment is or how safe yung issuer ng investment is. Okay? And then for UITFs, there is no holding period. Meaning, if you invest now, if you invest today within the cutoff period, you can actually redeem tomorrow if pasok dun sa terms nung investment fund natin without any charges usually. Okay? So very liquid siya. If nag-invest ka ngayon, even if you considered na you will be investing for the long term and then nagkaroon ng emergency, you really need to take it out, you can do so without worrying na magbabayad ka ng fee or you need to wait for a certain time. Okay? Unlike a regular savings account na you really need to stick to the term that you agreed upon or else you'll be paying pre-termination charges. Okay, so let's go into some concepts of investing. By the way, if you have any questions or if anything is unclear, type lang kayo sa chat box so I can address your questions. Although later, at the end of the session, Monneth and I will be having a Q&A then. So you can wait for that or you can type it in right now as well. Okay, so let's go now into the basics of investing. So in BPI Wealth, we prepared yung 3 Ws and 1 H. Okay, so these are the questions that you need to ask yourself before you consider investing. So basically, the objective, horizon, experience, and risk tolerance. Now, translated into questions, objective, why do you want to invest? Horizon, how many years can you stay invested? Experience, what do you know about investing? And risk tolerance, what is your risk tolerance for investing? So puntahan muna natin si why do you want to invest? Okay, so when you go into investing, you should have a goal in mind. Before when I talk to people, ang usual na sagot nila is gusto lang nilang lumaki yung value ng investment nila. But if you can set concrete goals, okay, concrete objectives, that would help you a lot in being more disciplined when it comes to your investment. So here are some of the objectives that you can consider. So for example, health, education of your child, property if you want to buy a new house or a new car, travel, okay, short-term or long-term, business if you want to set up a new business, and ultimately lahat tayo, we should be planning for retirement. Now, bakit important na meron tayong objective that we determine when we start investing? Okay, so again, it's intrinsically, of course, gusto lang nating lumaki yung value of our money. But if you can determine a specific goal in mind, okay, so for example, you want to buy a property, you want to buy a house, and you are planning to get into that house or to pay off that house, let's say in 10 years, okay, then that gives you an idea on how long you can stay invested, okay? Or it can also give you a discipline na hindi mo gagalawin yung pera because it's set aside for something already, okay? As I mentioned earlier, then retirement, lahat tayo magre-retire. So right now, okay, kunin yung calculator nyo if you're good with mental math. Mag-subtract lang tayo 60 or 55 or 50, whatever your preferred retirement age is. So 60 minus your age right now, that gives you your horizon on how long you can start in or how long you can stick invested until your retirement. Okay? So that would give you an idea, or that would give you comfort pala, that when you retire, you'll have this sum of money that can help you live comfortably even if wala na tayong regular stream of income or not as much ng revenues natin as when we were employed pa. Okay, so that's your objective. Next horizon is how many years can I stay invested? So medyo related siya dun sa objective din kanina if you were able to determine specific objectives. Okay? So when you go into horizon, you can be a short-term investor, a medium-term investor, or a long-term investor. So usually, short-term horizon, ito yung mga 1 to 3 years lang. Long horizon, it's 5 to 10 years or even longer. And then in between is yung medium-term natin. Now, bakit important that you set a horizon or set a term in mind when you go into investment? Kasi this could also give you an idea on where you can invest, okay? Or it will guide you kung saang type of investments mo pwedeng ilagay yung money mo, kasi that would also coincide with the risk that you can take. Okay, so if you're a short-term investor lang, let's say 1 year ka na mag-i-invest, then we wouldn't recommend, hindi namin i-recommend na mag-invest ka into a risk investment. Okay, for example, equities or stocks. That might not be recommended kasi at any point in time that you need to take out your money, let's say 1 year nga, you don't know how the performance of your investment would be in that short term. And if it's a risk investment, there's a high risk na at that period, let's say after 1 year, baka hindi pa kumikita yung money mo, or even worse, baka nalugi yung money mo from the investment. But if you can stay invested for long term, okay, 5 to 10 years or even more, you are reducing the risk. Kasi even if nalugi siya for 1 year, if hindi mo kailangan yung pera kasi you set that aside for long term, you can stick to your investment, maybe even add to your investment while the value is low. Okay, wait for another 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. When you check your value of your investment now, there is a higher chance that it is much higher than what you were investing in the previous 10 years. Okay, so you are reducing your risk and uncertainty by investing for longer. Okay? So for short term then, okay, so it's highly liquid. So ang options mo lang dito usually would be your money market or even deposits lang kasi you need to take it out at any point in time then. But at the same time, again, you should not expect significant return kasi you're not putting into high risk investment, you're not putting into long-term investments. So your return would be commensurate to the amount of risk that you are taking as well. Okay? Whereas kung long-term horizon ka, you can afford to take volatility na kasi you can ride out that volatility in the medium to long term. And as I mentioned earlier, if mababa yung value ng investment at the time, you can actually add to your investments, okay? Or to your portfolio, and that is what we call cost averaging as well. Okay? So you can ask yourself how long you can stay invested before you actually invest. Of course, nag-change din yan from time to time. Let's say initially you wanted to be a short-term investor, but you can also graduate into becoming a medium-term to longer-term investor in the future depending on your goals, since it also changes. Okay, next is experience. What do you know about investing? Okay, and risk, sorry, this is mixed na pala, and risk tolerance, or what is your, or how much risk you can take for investing. Now, to answer those two questions, introduce natin yung 4 investment personalities or risk profiles when it comes to investing. So we have conservative, moderately aggressive, and aggressive. Okay? So si conservative, okay, ito yung first-time investor or maybe retiree na, so wala na masyadong sources of income. and cannot afford to stay invested for longer na. Okay? So because of that, if you're a conservative investor, you cannot take a lot of risk anymore. Okay, so you would be okay now with low but steady returns when it comes to your investing or investments, and slowly but surely na yung approach mo when it comes to your portfolio. Si moderately conservative and moderately aggressive investor might have already some experience in investing. Maybe nakapag time deposit na sila before, maybe nakapag-invest na sila into direct bonds, for example. Okay? But with that certain level of experience, that also gives you a certain level of familiarity when it comes to investments. So you would be able to accept some degree of volatility. Hindi ka na magugulat na bakit bumaba yung value ng investment ko? Kasi you already know, based on your experience, that that is possible indeed when it comes to certain types of investments. So you would not be afraid anymore of losses in the short term, assuming that you would be able to ride it out into the medium term. Okay, and then lastly, you have the aggressive investor. So the aggressive investor has a lot of experience na, okay, or has a lot of knowledge when it comes to investment. Okay, so because of that, he or she likes to take advantage of volatility. Kapag nakita niya na bumabagsak yung value of the investment, he doesn't see it as a detriment or as an encouragement para i-out na yung investment niya. He sees it as an opportunity to add more to his investment kasi parang nag-discount yung market. Okay, hindi ako nalugi. Right now, at this moment, this is an opportunity for me to buy at a discount, to buy when the market is low. Okay, so different mindset siya as an aggressive investor. Okay? But perhaps si aggressive investor, I would say, yung pinaka-important din na personality niya would be yung time to invest. Okay? So if you're an aggressive investor pero short term na lang yung kaya mong invest, then maybe nasa moderate or conservative investor ka na lang. Mas important pa rin yung time to invest when it comes to considering your investment products. Okay, so let's talk about the risk-return trade-off. So basically, it shows na when you go up, sa yung y-axis natin, when you go up to the risk level, okay, pag pataas ng pataas yung risk mo, yung x-axis natin or yung return, it should give you commensurate returns as well. Okay, so for example, deposits, low risk, okay, ano yung risk mo sa deposits is, for example, ma-bankrupt yung bank mo, okay, or magka-bank run. And that doesn't usually happen naman unless small time na bank yung pinag-investan natin or rural bank. But for example, let's say your deposits are with BPI or any universal bank in the market, then there is very little risk na mawawala yung money mo. So because of that, yung return that is given to a depositor is also relatively lower. Okay? And then when you go up, if ready ka na mag-invest, when you go up towards the y-axis, you go into money markets, you go into bonds, you go into equities, you should be expecting that the returns that you would be getting should be higher than the previous product. So if you go into money market, you should be getting returns higher than deposit. If you go into bonds, you should be getting returns higher than money market, and so on and so forth. Okay? So you have to know this kasi you wouldn't be investing in a product that is risky pero mababa yung return. Okay? Or hindi ka rin mag-i-invest into a product na walang risk pero ang taas ng pinapromise na return. Kasi usually, yung mga ganong type of offerings, low risk, high return, usually ay yung mga scams. Okay? So you also have to consider kung sino yung nag-offer ng products natin or ng investments natin. And ultimately, it has to follow this logic. Yung risk mo should be equal to the return that you are promised or that you would be getting. Okay? And that is your risk-return trade-off. Okay? Next is yung investment asset classes na natin. So we have three here. You have your money market, you have your fixed income, and then you have your equities. When we talk about money market, this is basically your securities or investments that mature in less than 1 year. Okay, so this might include your time deposits, treasury bills, and even fixed income securities na less than 1 year na yung remaining term. Okay? So it's highly liquid kasi mabilis na siyang nagmamature or mabilis din siyang mabenta, mabilis siyang ma-flip. Okay? So it's very liquid and very little yung risk natin dito. Okay? Next is your fixed income. So this would give you potentially higher income at periodic and regular intervals. And you have varied maturities. So ranging from intermediate, let's say 1.5 year, to medium, let's say 3 years, to even as long as 25 years to some extent. But generally, nagre-range siya from around 2 years to around 7 years. Okay? So yung risk natin dito, since hindi siya masyado liquid, okay? Hindi siya mabilis mag-mature, okay? And matagal before mag-mature at let's say 2 to 5 years na or 2 to 7 years, then there is a risk na at the any time in between when you invest into that bond and the time that it matures, there might be a need to liquidate. And when you do so, hindi malaki yung chance na hindi favorable yung market. Okay? So you are exposed to moderate to even higher risk now when you go into fixed income. Okay, so also fixed income ito yung mga corporate bonds, government bonds. So you have options then when it comes to your issuer. And then lastly, for our high risk investment, you have your equities, or more commonly known in the market as stocks. So when you buy equities or when you buy stocks, you become a part owner of the company that you bought, of the shares of the company that you bought. Okay, so because of that, whatever is the income or whatever is the growth of the company, you share in that as well. However, if nalugi si company or nag-close si company, you also share in that. Okay? Unfortunately, you don't have, unless you're a majority stakeholder, you don't have any say on how the market or on how the company would be managed moving forward. So you really need to research on the company that you would be buying. Particularly kung ano yung mga prospects nila, kung kamusta yung management nila before you consider buying certain number of shares ng company na yun. Okay? But compared to money market and fixed income, mas malaki yung income potential natin or yung return potential natin in stocks or equities. Okay? Because of the higher risk again. Okay? Medyo nadaanan ko na to pero let's go into it in more detail. So money market, again, short-term investment, low risk, suitable for your for conservative investors or first-time investors or maybe retirees. Okay? So samples again, as mentioned earlier, treasury bills or time deposit. So basically products that mature in less than a year. Okay, next would be your fixed income instruments. Okay, so they provide regular income at prevailing interest rates. So some examples would be your government bonds like RTBs, FXTNs, and ROPs, and then corporate bonds issued by various corporate entities. Okay, so basically when you invest in a fixed income security or when you invest in a bond, pinapautang mo yung nag-issue ng bond na yun. So for example, government bond, retail treasury bond, if bumili ka ng retail treasury bond, pinapautang mo si government, they use that money for any particular reason. Okay, so if they have projects, if they have improvements to be done, then they use that money in those. They declare kung saan gagamitin yung money. And then they pay you, like a regular utang, they pay you interest at certain periods. Okay, so it might be quarterly or semi-annually. Okay, and then you have corporate bonds. So kapag nag-invest ka sa corporate bonds, pinapautang mo naman si company or si corporation. So similarly, they might be using it for expansion or for new projects, new businesses, and then they pay you interest in return. Okay. And then equities, again, as mentioned earlier, they represent your ownership in a corporation or company. Okay, so when you buy, for example, stocks of Ayala Land, you become a part owner of Ayala Land. So whatever the income of Ayala Land is, you take a part in that. Okay, but they tend to be more volatile than other asset classes. Kasi any there can be any internal or external factors that might affect the value of your company. Okay? So wala tayong control in those factors na. Okay? Now, yung na-mention ko na examples kanina, those are direct investments. Right now, when you go into First Metro, they would be able to offer you what we call collective investment schemes, particularly UITFs. Okay? So when you go into a collective investment scheme, hindi na ikaw yung may mili kung anong particular security yung bibilhin mo, but you would be guided by the product itself and or by the company kung anong certain types of products you are interested in investing in. So for example, there might be collective investment schemes or UITFs na focus in money market. There might be UITFs focus in bonds or some focus in equities, different strategies than anything in between. But basically what happens in a UITF or a CIS, collective investment scheme, is investors, for example, you and me together, when we decide to invest, yung money that we invest would be pulled together, okay, in a certain fund, okay, and that money or that fund would be professionally managed by fund managers of that particular fund. Now, say fund managers, what they do, sila yung nag-i-invest, sila yung nagre-research, sila yung nag-a-assess ng best options in the market, and then they invest that pooled fund into those securities depending on what type of asset class or investment fund yung pinili natin. Okay? So they invest in those securities, and then itong securities na to, depending if it's a money market security, bonds, equities, balanced, or anything in between, okay, they would generate income either in the form of capital appreciation or yung interest payments natin or even yung trading gains natin. Okay? So all of this income in any form based on the or from the securities would be reflected back into the value of the UITF. Okay? So if nag-generate ng income yung securities under the fund, you would expect that the value of the UITF would also increase. So this new value would be reflected to your account. So this would be given back to the investor. However, as you can see din sa diagram natin, it is a cycle. So hindi siya close-ended na or one line lang na you invest and then you wait for the security to mature. In a CIS or in a UITF, when you invest, okay, and then nakita mo, for example, after 1 day, kumita ka na dun sa investment mo, or after 1 year, kumita ka na sa investment mo. As long as you are not redeeming, as long as hindi mo kinukuha yung money mo from the investment, then it would continue to follow this cycle. Okay? So si fund manager would continue to reinvest your money into the securities, and then itong securities na to might generate additional income, they might increase or decrease in value, or anything that might happen in the future. But as long as you are not taking out your investment, then continuous lang siya na subjected to the market value ng securities natin. Okay, and that is how a collective investment scheme or a UITF works. Okay, so napasadahan ko na rin to kanina, but here are your types of investment funds based on asset class. So we have money market, bond, equity, and balanced funds. Okay, so basically when you invest in CISs or UITFs, for example, money market funds, let's say you invest 5,000 pesos, yung 5,000 pesos mo, si fund manager would invest that into a portfolio of various money market securities. So iba't ibang time deposits, iba't ibang treasury bills. When you invest in a bond fund, si fund manager would invest your 5,000 pesos into multiple corporate security or corporate fixed income securities, government bonds, and so on and so forth. When you go into equity funds, usually ito yung maraming options. Depende din sa strategy ng fund managers natin. But when you look into your equity fund options, doon mo makikita kung saan ini-invest ng fund manager yung investment natin. So you might see asset classes or strategies na focused on dividends. You might see something focused on growth, and so on and so forth. And then if ayaw mo mag-invest into multiple UITFs, you can also go directly into a balanced fund para automatically na siya naka-diversify into bonds and equities. Okay? So what are the advantages of UITFs and also mutual funds? So basically yung mga CIS natin. So when you go into a UITF, you get instant diversification. It means hindi mo na kailangan na on your own mag-invest ka into multiple different securities. Okay? Kasi when you go into a UITF, kahit magkano pa yung in-invest mo, be it 5,000 pesos, 1 million pesos, 1 billion pesos, naka-diversify yan into a pool of a portfolio of different securities. Okay? And dahil diversified ka, okay, lumiliit din yung risk mo. Okay, what does it mean? Kasi if let's say you only have, let's say, 100,000 pesos, and then nag-invest ka directly, let's say nag-invest ka sa bond, okay? If yung bond na yon, yung issuer ng bond na yon folds or nag-default, okay, yung money mo would be lost together with that security. However, if you are diversified, lumiliit yung risk mo kasi hindi ka lang naka-expose into one issuer. You're exposed to a lot of different issuers. So if ever man, let's say worst case scenario, may isang security din na nag-default, okay, then hindi 100% of your money would be affected. And actually, to counter that then, yung possibility na mag-default yung security na pinag-i-investan, you have fund managers. So your investments are professionally managed. So before mag-default yung corporation na to or yung issuer na to, si fund manager possibly would remove that from the portfolio altogether. Okay, so lumiliit ulit yung risk natin because you have fund managers doing their research on a regular basis. Okay? UITFs also are very affordable. Okay? Monneth, correct me lang if I'm wrong, but I guess the minimum for First Metro is 5,000 pesos. Okay? So with 5,000 pesos, you can already invest in a portfolio of instantly diversified investments. Whereas if you're going to go direct into the market, for example, you go into equities, you have to go into kung magkano yung lot na kailangang bilhin mo to buy specific stocks in the market. If you're going to go into money market, for example, so time deposit, okay, treasury bill, that might require you to invest siguro 50,000 pesos to 1 million pesos. When you go into fixed income securities, okay, bonds, mas malaki yung minimum usually. So 100,000 to 1 million to 5 million depending on the issuer. Okay? But with UITF, it's just 5,000 pesos and hindi ka lang sa isa naka-invest. Okay, economies of scale as well. Okay, so regardless if maliit nga yung investment or malaki, you are subjected to the same returns as anyone else invested in that particular UITF. So hindi porket mas malaki yung investment of investor X, for example, let's say nag-invest ng 1 million versus investor Y na nag-invest ng 5,000 pesos, you are getting the same returns. Okay? And then access to high-yielding instruments. Usually kasi naka-lock yan. If you want high-yielding instruments in the market right now, it's either reserved to QIBs, okay, so qualified buyers, or to those na malaki yung investment na i-invest or yung subscription na kayang ilagay. But if you go into a UITF, you will be able to enjoy the benefit of being invested in a high-yielding instrument as well. Okay, and then of course you have easy access to funds, you have your online facility, and you are spreading your costs. Okay, so I mentioned mutual funds. Let's compare lang yung dalawang type of collective investment scheme. Actually, very technical na lang yung difference ng UITF and mutual funds. But for the sake of appreciation, let's go into the differences in detail. So we have this table here showing yung differences between UITF and mutual funds. First would be the regulator. When you go into a UITF, ang regulator niya is the BSP, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Whereas for a mutual fund, it's the SEC or Securities and Exchange Commission. Okay? So structure, UITF is contractual. So when you go into a UITF, you are entering into a contract. Whereas for a mutual fund, it's a corporate structure, okay? You are actually becoming a shareholder of that mutual fund company. Instrument, you are issued units of participation for UITF, whereas for mutual funds, common shares. However, as of late, nag-offer na rin siya ng mga unitized na mutual funds. For governance, you have your bank and non-bank na trust committee, whereas for mutual fund, you have the board of director of each mutual fund company. Okay, same din sa management. Okay, so it's the trust department for the UITF, and then for the mutual fund, it's the independent investment company advisor or fund manager. Okay, for UITFs, when it comes to your sales license, hindi kailangan ng licensing, but a TOEP certified trainer should train the sales force of the particular bank or financial institution. Okay, but for mutual funds, all sales personnel should be licensed to sell mutual funds. So there is an SEC licensure exam that needs to be passed. Okay, there's no stockholders meeting for UITF, but for mutual funds, there is, because they are, again, companies or corporate yung structure niya. And there's no liquidity requirement for UITF, whereas for mutual fund, 5% of the net asset value should be subject to submission of the liquidity plan to SEC. Okay, otherwise 10% of NAV as well. Okay, so again, very technical lang yung differences nila. But if you're a layman na investor naman, there really shouldn't be any much difference between the two. Except maybe if you're into it, yung units of participation versus yung shares. But the rest, it's more on technical differences. Okay, so how do we earn from investment funds? Basically, you are earning whenever the NAV2 or the net asset value per unit of your fund changes. Okay, so you can earn or you can lose from your investment fund depende if tumaas or bumaba yung NAV2. Okay, so let's go into a quick example. Let's say you invested 10,000 pesos. Ang NAV2 or price ng fund natin is 500 pesos. That means you get 20 units of participation in the fund. So ayun yung pinangahawakan mo. Okay, ayun yung proof of your investment. Now, what if tomorrow yung value of the investment increases from 500 pesos, naging 550 na yung NAV2 mo? Okay, so you still have 20 units, hindi nagbabago yung number of units mo unless you add to your investment or nag-redeem ka sa investment mo. So 20 units times 550, the value is now 11,000 pesos or 10% na ROI or return on investment. However, if the following day from 550, naging naman siyang 450 pesos, and you still have 20 units, hindi ka nagdagdag, hindi ka nagbawas to your, from your investment, that means your new value is now 9,000 pesos. So 20 units times 450 and ROI of negative 10%. Of course, ito naman is ano lang, illustration lang siya to give you an idea on the computation and how you are earning from your investments. But again, it's the NAV2. So kung alam mo kung magkano yung average na cost mo or average NAV2 na binili mo, if you see that the NAV2 on T plus 1 or T plus X in the future is higher than yung cost mo, then you know that kumita ka. Pero if lower siya, then nalugi ka sa investment. Okay? Okay, so wrapping up na tayo. So some tips lang. Investing is not a straight line. Volatility is always here to stay. Okay, so it's up to you on how you can ride that volatility. If ayaw mo talaga, it's up to you if you want to stay clear of that volatility. Okay, so timing does not work. Usually yung iba naghihintay. So nakita natin to. This is a chart ng PSEI. Some of them naghihintay na bumagsak yung market, but no one really knows kung kailan babagsak yung market or kailan tataas yung market. So timing does not really work unless you have the power of hindsight. Okay, so what we recommend is time in the market, not timing the market. So if you can stay invested for longer, then you are minimizing or reducing your risk. Okay, so instead of timing, what we can recommend you to do is peso cost averaging. and consistency in cost averaging. Okay? So it means basically buying on a regular basis. Even if not mababa yung market this month, and then mataas next month, and then mababa ulit the following month, regardless of that, kung mataas siya or mababa, if you add on a regular basis and consistently, you are doing cost averaging or you are getting the average cost of the market. So walang regrets na sana pala nitong time ako nag-invest kasi you are not timing the market, you are getting the average cost. And lastly, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Kasi there might be times na this particular asset class would be performing better, but there would be also times na this asset class naman would be performing better. So as an example, this is the performance of various asset classes over the last 10 years. Okay? So kung makikita natin, if you're going to look at the top row, ito yung mga top performing asset classes for that particular year. Okay? So there were years na global equities yung mataas, there were years na local equities, global fixed income, local fixed income. So it's a mixed bag talaga. Okay? So even if, syempre, kung mapansin natin, global equities yung majority, more than half of the last 10 years na top performing, but if you're going to look at their performance, there were also years na nag-negative siya. So for example, 2018, negative 6.5, 2022, negative almost 12%. Okay? So even if on if you're going to look at it on a year-on-year basis, pinakamaraming highest na return si global equity, you will still experience years na malaki yung loss niya. So it's better if you are able to diversify into other asset classes as well para hindi ka exposed into one risk only. Okay? Okay, so parting slides na tayo. So key takeaways again is your questions, hero or horizon experience, risk tolerance, and objective. Timing does not work, but with the market condition now, it is the right time to invest. And lastly, and I guess pinaka-important para maiwasan natin yung investment mishaps, is to diversify your portfolio. Okay, so that's it for me. I'll turn you over to Monneth again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim, for sharing how to fireproof our finances, a guide to preventing investment mishap. So it all started with the right mindset. And of course, the acronym HERO, or the 3 W's and 1 H. And at the same time, learning how to diversify your investment. So, marami na po akong questions na nakita sa chat and even sa Q&A ng Zoom panel. So, bigyan po muna natin ng water break si Kim. And then, as to how will you be able to invest UITF or mutual fund of BPI Wealth, this is how. So, first of all, you need to have a FirstMetroSec account. Once you have a FirstMetroSec account, you log in via my.firstmetrosec.com.ph or pro.firstmetrosec.com.ph and then click funds. Afterwards, ito po yung landing page. Actually, we have tons of funds partners. This will show up roughly 130 pooled funds available in mutual funds and UITF. So just click Fund Smart. And then afterwards, of course, under all providers, choose BPI, Asset Management and Trust Corporation. Then it will show all of the funds under BPI. So you can actually sort based on the performance or the fee structure. So personally, I like to check the year-to-date performance of certain funds, whether it's 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. So after checking on the performance or after checking on the fee structure, perhaps you may consider 1 or 2 funds already. So should you have to check on the summary or the full details of the fund, just click on the fund code or the fund name. So for example, itong BPI Invest Equity Infrastructure Fund. So here in the fund profile, you will actually see the summary of the funds, what is the minimum investment, the subsequent additional investment, fund allocation, the top holdings, even the chart of the fund over a period of time. And once you are already you are already decided whether to invest, just click subscribe and then indicate the amount. So I just like to note 1,000 is the updated minimum initial investment for all of the BPI Wealth and the mutual funds under BPI Wealth Pooled Fund. So after that, or after indicating the amount, just click subscribe and then you key in your password. So supposed to be, you will receive the confirmation email from FirstMetroSec. So after a few days, depending on the funds that you will avail, this will actually reflect on the portfolio and then click funds. And for example, this one you have invested in ALFM. So personally, I like the ALFM fund because it provides units every month. So every month, I also receive income from this particular fund. And aside from that, another benefit of investing in pooled funds through FundSmart is you can make the most out of your money because you will be paying zero. Walang sales load, walang commission, at walang transaction fee. So these costs are actually almost standard when you buy pooled funds direct from the source. But because you are doing it on your own and online, you get charged with nothing actually. You only end up paying the fund management fees. So again, that's another big reason why it is good and even a nice way to start investing in FirstMetroSec FundSmart. And this was already shared by Kimm, the peso cost averaging. So the challenge here, well, it sounds easy, but the challenge here is how you maintain the discipline consistently. So with voluntary investment program of FirstMetroSec BP, this encourage disciplined investing, provides automatic diversification, and makes investing hassle-free for you. So no need to post orders on your own, and investment can be sold or redeemed anytime. So to get started, you only need three things. First, how much to invest. Second, how frequent? Is it once or twice a month? And third, where to invest. So just fund your account regularly and the amount will be deducted automatically from your buying power on the debit date that you have set. So one powerful account for all of your investment needs. You can invest in stocks, REITs, ETF, pooled funds, and bonds. So you can open an account via online. Just go to www.firstmetrosec.com.ph. You accomplish the online form, upload the necessary document, and when you get asked, where did you know about us? Just kindly indicate seminar code BPI Wealth. So the requirements include government-issued ID, proof of residence, tax identification number, proof of bank account, and proof of initial deposit, which is only 1,000 pesos. And feel free to connect with us in social media channels. Just search at FirstMetroSec. You may scan the QR code or screenshot the slide. Our main website is www.firstmetrosec.com.ph, and for account updates, requests, access concern, email customer service at firstmetrosec.com.ph. And this is our last webinar for the month. So for those of you who missed our webinars, you can watch the recording in our YouTube channel. Kahit yung latest webinar last March 19, uploaded na din po. So thankful to our marketing team for making this possible. So just go to YouTube and search for FirstMetroSec. Don't forget to click the subscribe button so that you will receive updates on the latest videos uploaded. And lastly, for customized, gamified, award-winning market education programs exclusively designed for your company, school, or organization, just send us a formal invite at marketeducation@firstmetrosec.com.ph. And at this juncture, may I once again call our speaker, Kimm, to turn on his mic and camera as we accommodate any questions. So yung question na na-receive ko, let me just pull out. First question, Kimm. What is the tax treatment of earnings in UITF and mutual fund?
Okay, so for BPI Wealth UITF, now when you invest in our UITFs, it's considered tax paid already. So when you see yung NAV po natin, it already includes yung taxes, it already includes yung trust fees, and any charges that need to be incurred by the fund. Okay? So it means, let's say nag-invest ka, let's say ang NAV mo is 100 pesos, And then nung chinek mo siya after a certain period, let's say 110 pesos na siya, and then you decide to take it out, so yung ROI mo na 10%, that's already tax paid. Okay? So wala nang ibabawas dun sa investment natin. Whereas for mutual fund, income or sorry, income from mutual funds are considered tax exempt naman. So yung makikita mo sa account mo, when you take it out, it's already net of tax or wala na ring tax siya.
Okay, thank you for that, Kim. So both UITF and mutual funds or the pooled funds are already tax-free. So there was also another question, how to jumpstart availing UITF and mutual fund. I already shared it earlier. And then next question, I think I'll take this as the last question na din. What do you advise for those people who have difficulty with changing the mindset?
Difficulty in changing the mindset. Now, ayun yung medyo mahirap. Kasi it's one thing to do this seminars na for knowledge or for additional information, but yung mindset comes from the person himself or herself. Okay? But I guess the only way to do it is to do it. Okay? So, pwede mo siyang gawin, pero you can do it slowly. Okay? So, hindi naman, for example, yung changing natin ng equation na income minus savings or investment equals expenses. Kung hindi mo siya kayang gawin, okay, at right now, maybe you can do it slowly. Okay, so let's say ang income mo or yung salary mo every month, let's say is 20,000 pesos. Maybe you can start kahit 200 pesos muna, and then 400 pesos, 600 pesos, until you go into a comfortable amount na medyo sizable na, let's say 2,000 pesos, that would really give you an impact na towards your savings and investment in the future. So slowly but surely rin siguro yung pag-change ng mindset if you can't do it from the get-go.
Thank you for that, Kim. I think the VIP or the Voluntary Investment Program FirstMetroSec can also help the clients or those na may difficulty in the mindset. So parang may forced investment sila. So just a scheduled fund transfer from their payroll account to their FirstMetroSec account para yung matira na lang sa payroll nila is for their expenses. So I think you should consider voluntary investment program. So that's it. That sums up our Q&A portion. Thank you so much for all of your questions. And of course, thank you very much to our guest speaker, Kim, for gamely answering the questions. So to our attendees, we also value your feedback. You can share your thoughts and experiences with us by scanning the QR code or screenshot of this slide and then answer our feedback form. Link will also be provided by our chat moderator. And your input is essential to us to better meet your needs. And we appreciate your contribution and look forward to implementing these positive changes based on your valuable feedback. Again, thank you so much, Kim, and we look forward to our next collaboration as we continue to serve the Filipino investors. Perhaps you have some parting words for our audience before we formally close the event.
Yeah. So hopefully everyone was able to listen and take some knowledge, information from the presentation. But if not, again, key takeaways ko na lang is you have to know yourself. You have to ask the important questions if you want to be an investor. So yun yung hero or yung 3 Ws and 1 H na question natin. And then, when you go into investing na, kapag nag-invest ka na, always diversify. Okay? Hindi porket comfortable ka na sa one product, dun ka na mag-invest forever. Okay, so you have to always explore yung options natin, not only for potential higher earnings, but to reduce yung risk then of your investing. So always diversify to prevent any, not only financial, but investment mishaps natin in the future. That's it.
Yeah. So there you have it. Once again, on behalf of FirstMetro Securities Brokerage Corporation, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to Kim of BPI Wealth for gracing us with his time and presence. It is truly an evening well spent. Thank you also to everyone who attended tonight. We sincerely hope you learned a lot and that these insights and lessons will make your investment journey not just more profitable, but also more enjoyable. Please don't forget to provide feedback for today's webinar. And we hope to see you again in our future learning events because over here at FirstMetro Securities, we put your future first. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye.